Hello everyone, welcome to SFDC Learn and Share YouTube channel. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate one of the Summer 20 release features called the Lightning Message Service, LMS. We'll talk about the Lightning Message Service and communicate between the Visualforce page, ARA and the LWC component with live demo to creating the Visualforce page, to publish and subscribe from the Visualforce page. Similar way, ARA and LWC to publish and subscribe to the component, including the utility bar. And finally, quick summary and resources, which I'm using in this session. Using these Lightning message services, we can leverage it to communicate between the Visualforce page and Lightning components, that is ARA and LWC, to anywhere in the Lightning page and utility bar. LMS position itself as the standard publish and subscribe library in the UI to enabling the components in any part of the DOM to communicate. So Lightning message service can be used to communicate across the DOM between the Visualforce page and Lightning components, that is the ARA components and Lightning web components, including components in your pop-out utility bar. LMS provides a standards, means communicate LWC and ARA components as well as the Visualforce page, which including the components in the utility bar. All interaction have to originate from the same Lightning experience application instance, the same browser tab. So Lightning message service is available in Lightning experience only. LMS is a simple API to publish the message throughout the Lightning experience and subscribe to message that originated from anywhere within the Lightning experience, including the utility bar. LMS is like application events for the ARA components. With an application event, we can define an ARA event as a component that contains the fields that store the data passed as the part of the event. Then we can use it to pass the events, that components level that have registered for that ARA event. In LMS also, the equivalent is it's called a message channel, which is a new metadata, not a component. It has tags that defines the name and data fields for the event. Before creating that Lightning message channel, let me show you here. For instance, we have the Lightning page. Here we have the components. There is no interrelated each other. That means there is no parent-child relationship with each components. These are the separate components. So using this Lightning message service with the help of the Lightning message channel, we can pass the data from VA page to VA page, or VA page to ARA component, or VA page to LWC, or including the utility bar. Similar way, we can communicate from ARA component to VA page, or ARA component to ARA component, and ARA component to LWC, and ARA component within the Lightning experience to the utility bar. Also, LWC also the similar way, from LWC to VA page, LWC to ARA, and LWC to LWC, and LWC to utility bar, the components, either the VA page or ARA and LWC. As I mentioned, Lightning message service is based on the new metadata type. It's called the Lightning message channel. So we need to create a Lightning message channel, and we can define the fields. Once we define those message channel, from that way we can communicate the data whoever subscribed that particular channel. So this communication we can use with the help of the Lightning message channel in the Lightning message services API. In Visualforce page, to get the access of the message channel, we can use the global variable called $message channel and that related the channel name. In ARA, we need to use the Lightning :message channel, and we need to define that in the type attribute the relevant channel name. In LWC, we can import from the @Salesforce message channel scope module. Here we'll do that to creating the Lightning message services with the VF page to publish the data from the Visualforce page, to receive the data using the subscribe from the VF page. Similar way, Aura from create a separate component to publish the component from another Aura component. We'll try to retrieve using the subscribe way using this Lightning message channel, and we'll create a LWC with a separate component, the publisher component, also the subscriber component. We'll see how to interact the data from publisher component to subscriber component. Also, we'll see two Lightning message services with communication between the Visualforce page, Aura, and LWC, and utility bar. For that, we need to create a Lightning message channel. In Salesforce UI interface does not support creating these Lightning message channel directly. We need to create Lightning message channel and deploy using the and deployment tool or Workbench or VS Code or any other IDE. Here I am using my Visual Studio Code to creating the Lightning message channel. To creating the Lightning message channel, go to the FOSA main default, create a folder. This is the message channel, metadata type called message channel. Under that, create a XML file. It's called the channel name dot message channel hyphen meta.xml. And from the XML file, we need to define the fields under the Lightning message channel tag. So we need to define the description is exposed as a true. Then we can use this message channel to publish and subscribe from the component level, either the VF page, Aura component, or Lightning web component. This is the Lightning message field. It's contained description and field name. So this is the field name we need to use while published from the publisher component. In this Lightning message channel, I have the two fields created, one for record ID and record data, and the master label we mention as a account message channel. So this is the definition of the message channel. To holding the values in the Lightning message channel fields and passing from the publisher component, and whoever subscribed this particular Lightning message channel receive that information from this field level and get that value and play around it. In that, I already created the Visualforce page, publisher component, and subscriber component of the Visualforce page, and Aura component, the publisher component and subscriber component, and the LWC publisher component and subscriber component. In this demo, we'll deep dive how we can publish from the VF page and subscribe to get that Lightning message channel from the subscriber way. Here, I have list out the account information from the my publisher component from the Visualforce page. Whenever I'm clicking that account, so I need to pass the account ID, and whoever received, like whoever subscribed that channel, received that account ID and get some more information about that account ID. So that means, so I'm passing that account ID. I need to display some more information like name, type, industry, annual revenue, right? So for that, let's implement that logic to publishing from the channel through the record ID of the account ID, and subscriber component receive that account ID and get that some more information. To publish and subscribe and unsubscribe in the Visualforce page to interact with the Lightning message service, Salesforce introduced the SFDC.1 API. So using that, we can publish and subscribe and unsubscribe to interact with the Lightning message channel for the services. So we created the Lightning message channel. Now let's implement that logic. From my publisher component, as I mentioned, I'm simply list out the account name from the page flag table. I iterated and displayed the account name. When someone clicking the account name from the on click for the JavaScript, I passing that account ID. To get that account list, I get that account list from the account controller. The method called get accounts. This is my controller. Get accounts. I'll get 15 accounts and list out the accounts from the publisher component. When someone clicking the on click from the handle on click JavaScript, I'm passing the account ID. Now let's implement the publisher, the lightning message channel, and passing the account ID so that the subscriber component for this lightning message channel receive that account ID and play around. So from the function, let's define the payload. To pass the payload, let's pass the record ID. That is the one we defined as a field. Colon the parameter, we get the account ID, and the next field is record data. So from the record data, we'll simply pass the static value in the value attribute called message from VF. The another one, we can add that extra fields also in the payload. Source. The source here I am defined as VF page. So we define the payload, and using the SForce1 API, with the help of the publish method, we can pass the data here. SForce1 API, we can publish. So here we need to pass the two parameters. One is the lightning message token, that's we can get it from the global variable from the Visualforce page called $message channel. The message channel name. The message channel name is nothing but which we created the name account message channel _ C. So account LMS and then payload. So we have the publisher component from the Visualforce page. We publishing from the lightning message channel. Let's deploy this publisher component in the subscriber component. So there is no relationship between those two components. Let's subscribe the channel. Whenever this subscriber via page gets loaded in the page, in the window.onload, we subscribe the channel. If someone publishing that particular channel, he will receive the notification and he will receive that information for the data, and he can manipulate and we can build the logic. Before implementing the subscriber component, let me go to my slide. So again, using the SForce.1 APIs in the subscriber way, we can get to interact with the lightning message service in the Visualforce page. For that, we need to pass the subscribe. There are two parameters. One is the lightning message channel token for that particular channel, and to handle the message. So once we receive that information from the publisher component, we received that information and to handle the data. So what are the data we are passing from the publisher component, we received that information. Let's go to build the logic. In window.onload, let's try to subscribe the lightning message channel. Here we need to pass the three parameters. We need to get the lightning message channel token. So we already defined the variable account LMS. To get that message channel, we need to use the global variable called $message channel and then message channel name, then SForce1.API, sorry, 1.subscribe. And here we need to pass the lightning message channel, the token, then followed by we get the message. So we can pass that message in the separate method to handle that message. And finally, the scope as application. So we subscribed and received the information from the message parameter. Then here we get message.record ID to iterate the record ID from the publisher component. And to record data, if you see here, the record data we assigned in the value. So then to get that, we need to use message.recordData.value and record source. So from the Visualforce page, we use the action function. So whenever we are calling this display account with the action function with the name gets fired, and accordingly the action gets called from the Apex method. From this Apex method, we are passing the account ID as a parameter from the first parameter. If I go to the controller, retrieve account detail, once we got that account ID as a parameter from the Visualforce page, we get some more information about that particular account. So once we got that information, and in the re-render, we define that ID account detail, so it's get automatically re-rendered. Those information get from the Apex controller, like name, type, annual revenue, industry, website, and so on. Now let's try to deploy and then check the component from the VA page. Now let's try to refresh. So we publishing from the VA page and subscribing the channel, and whoever publishing that from the publisher component, the receiver component received the data. If I'm clicking that name, account name, we are passing that account ID from the publisher component, and whoever subscribed that particular channel received that information and accordingly displayed. So we publishing from this component and subscriber this Visualforce page component, we passing that account ID using this lightning message channel with a lightning message service, and the subscriber component received that account ID and displayed the account information. Here there is no interrelationship between those two components, but we can communicate data from the publisher component and subscriber component through the lightning message channel with the lightning message services. Now let's implement in the ARA component, publish the ARA component and subscriber component to receive. To use LMS with ARA to publishing the lightning message channel, we need to define the lightning message channel in the type, the message channel name, and ARA:ID. We need to specify that ARA ID to bind from the component level and publish the message. From the subscriber component, again, we need to define the lightning message channel, and from the type, we need to specify the lightning message channel name. Here, the important thing is we need to define that on message. So this is that handler on message. We get that action whenever someone is publishing the message from the lightning message channel from the publisher component, the subscriber component received that notification. So we can handle the message which we received from the publisher component. Let's implement that logic from the ARA component. So from the publisher component, here again, the simple logic, I get that account results. I define that ARA attribute, the name account results. From the controller, so from the my action, that my action is called the ARA handler init. This my actions initiated and get the results from the Apex controller method that get accounts, which we used in the Visualforce page, the same method. We get that 15 account records, and once we get the account information from the ARA like Apex controller, we we set in the account results as a result as account result. Then here we use that aura colon iteration to iterate the account name. If you notice the same thing in the on click, we handle on click method. Here we are passing the account ID in the data set called data hyphen value. In the data hyphen value data set, we assign that account ID. If someone clicking that account name, we need to publish the lightning message channel with the payload. The payload listens the data information. From the handle on click, let's implement the logic payload. And then we can pass it the record ID. The record ID is nothing but which we define the lightning message channel, lightning message fields from the lightning message channel. Record ID colon. Here we get that the account ID from the on click event, right? For that, we need to use the event dot target dot data set. So data set is nothing but we used to define the value in the data hyphen value. Here we define as a value. So in that case, we need to get that account ID. We need to use data set dot value. If in case I am passing account ID as a the data hyphen account ID, we can use account like data set dot account ID. Record ID and record data. Here record data. Here again we can define in the value attribute. So here I'm defining message from our component and the final record source. So source is to identify which particular component. So here I'm defining as a ARA. So we define that the payload then will publish the lightning message channel. To publishing the message channel component dot find. So we need to find from the ARA ID, which we need to define here. That is called lightning message channel. Lightning message channel, the type, we need to define the lightning message channel name. That is nothing but it's the message channel name, account message channel, then ARA ID. So here we need to define the ARA ID, message channel, to get the token for this channel. In the find, we need to use the component dot find, and then we need to use the publish. From the publish, we need to pass the payload, which we define here. So we all set. Let's try to deploy this component, the publisher component for the ARA. Yeah. So instead of semicolon, we need to use the comma. All good. Now let's implement quickly in the subscriber component. The subscriber component, again, we need to use the lightning message channel and type. We need to specify the message channel name. Here the message channel name, just copy and paste it here. And here one important thing, in the subscriber component, we received the message whenever someone publishes this channel, we get the notification in this message. Then we handle that message. We can call the separate method. We can use C dot the method, and the final scope. We need to specify the scope as application. It's very important. So we define the lightning message channel in the lightning message channel. Let's try to handle the channel. Before that, simply here we use that lightning record form. Here passing the ID, record ID, which we are getting from the publisher component, and we specify that object API name as account and fields. Here we define the fields in the attribute. Here we specified in the default as a name type, annual revenue, etc. And also we get that record value, data, and source and account ID from LMS. Yeah, I defined some few attribute. Now let's get that message and set that value from the component level. For that, we need to use the component dot set. First, we need to set the account ID. So account ID we defined in the account ID from LMS, the attribute. So to set, we need to use v dot the variable name. Then we need to get from the value from the message parameter dot get param. Then we need to specify the field, in this case record ID. Now let's do the same thing for the record source and record data. So record data we get from the value, so we need to use dot value. Then record source, a straight way we get from the message get param. So we define the subscriber component. So publisher component, publishing the account ID with record data and source, and the receiver component, that is a subscriber component for this lightning message channel, receive that information. Now let's go to the page and refresh. In our publisher component, let me initiate the account name. See that account ID gets passed from the publisher component and subscriber component who subscribe the channel, receive that account ID, and we use the lightning record form to pass the account ID and object and field information and display it, including the messages and sources as well. So simplify, we publishing from the ARA component, we pass the account ID using the LMS lightning message channel, and the subscriber component received the ID and populated some more information about that particular account. Let's implement the lightning web component to publish and subscribe. To lightning web component to publish, so we need to import from the @Salesforce message channel, that is a scoped module to use the lightning message channel API, and also we need to import the functions to use publish and subscribe from the lightning message service. The same for the subscriber also. Let's straight away to implement from the component level. Let me go to my publisher component for lightning web component. So it's a straight away we used to iterate it from the for each, get the account list and iterated the account name, on click, handle the on click, handle click to publishing that message channel. Same here, I am also using the data set to pass the account ID. So from the handle click, I can get that value. From the subscriber publisher component from the JavaScript, as I mentioned, we need to import lightning message service. For that, we need to use import from lightning message service to import the method for create message context, and here we need to use the publish method. Then we need to import the lightning message channel. For that, I'm defining the property called account LMC from. We need to import from the Salesforce / message channel and account message channel __C. Now we need to define this context, create message context to get the token. Then we need to publish the component from the handle click. If someone clicking that account, we need to pass that account ID from the publisher component through this lightning message channel, and subscriber component receive that information. We already publishing the information, just straight away to copy and paste it in the constant, the payload, the record ID, the data set, and everything is fine. From the message, and just change the LWC, the source also LWC. Now we define the payload, the information which we want to pass from the publisher component to subscriber component. Now let's implement to pass the publisher method. So from publishing, we need to pass the three parameter. One is this dot context, which we are getting from the create message contact in the lightning message service, this dot context. The next one, the lightning message service, the property, the account LMS, then finally the payload. So we need to pass the three parameter. So from here, from publisher component itself, we need to import the lightning message service and message channel and define the context, the create message context. While publishing, we need to pass the three parameter. One is this context, account LMS, the lightning message service name, and payload. All set for about the publisher component. Let's implement the subscriber component. While implementing the subscriber component, it's simply we use the lightning record form. We pass the account ID and object API name and fields. So account ID we are getting from the publisher component. That's fine. And account the object API name and fields we defined here. Now let's subscribe the component. So whenever the components gets loaded in the connected callback, we'll call the separate method subscribe LMSC. Here we try to subscribe the channel. To subscribe the channel, again we need to import the lightning message service and lightning message channel. So here we need subscribe. So I just change the name and context. So we need to get from the create message context. That's fine. From the subscriber LMSC. From here, we were getting from the three parameters again. Let implement from the subscriber method from the lightning message service API. Here we need to pass this context from the create message context. Then the next parameter for the lightning message service, the channel name, the final one which we are receiving the data. So the payload we are receiving from the message, then using the array function, we get that message and handle that message. So here we will pass that message from the another method, this dot handle message, and pass the message, and we'll try to iterate over here. And final one, we need to define the scope. COP scope colon applications underscore scope. So from the handle message, we are getting from the message from the subscriber method, whoever publishing the data from the publisher component, then subscriber component received the information. Now we'll handle that message. Now we need to get the account ID. So here this dot account ID from the message, I received that message dot record ID. Now the next record source, this dot record source colon message dot record source. Third one, record data. So the record data we received from message dot record data dot value. So we get the three values from this message from the publisher component. We iterated and defined in the each property. So the publisher component, the subscriber component also ready from the LWC, and make sure from the LWC component perspective, we need to define is exposed true to get that component to visible that component from the app page or home page or record page. Here we can define from the target level. Here I defined the lightning __ app page. That means it's displayed in the app page while enabling from the lightning app builder. And also I defined the utility bar. This particular component to display in the utility bar, I added the target also in the lightning __ utility bar. These are one of the important steps. Okay, let's try to deploy this subscriber component. Now let's go to refresh the page. Now we have publisher component for the lightning web component and subscriber component for the lightning web component. There is no relationship between two components. That means there is no parent-child relationship. From publisher component, let me initiate that. Let me publish that component, that account. Here we are passing that account ID. Whoever subscribed the channel, they receive the data, and then accordingly will play around. If I am changing the different account, accordingly it displayed. If I go back here, so from the publisher component, from the LWC, we publish that using the lightning message channel from the lightning message service APIs. The subscriber component received that ID and displayed the account information. All set. Now, if I go back, this is the Visualforce page. If you see here, I'm clicking the account name and it displayed in the subscriber component of the VA page and the subscriber component of the ARA component and LWC. So we can communicate the different component level as well. So that means, so we can communicate VA page to VA page and VA page to ARA and VA page to LWC. Same thing. If I am clicking from the component of the ARA publisher, so whoever subscribe that channel, they receive that details. If I am clicking from the ARA publisher, the VF subscriber received and the message channel also displayed accordingly. If I am clicking from the LWC, the same thing happened also. So ideally we can communicate from ARA to VA page or ARA to ARA and ARA to LWC and LWC to VA page and LWC to ARA and LWC to LWC. Now I included those components in utility items as well. Now let's try to enable from the utility items. So I already enabled, let me show where we can enable the components from the utility items. Go to click that app, edit the app and go to the utility items from the left side. Click the utility items and use the add utility items in case if you want to add the Visualforce page. Simply select search Visualforce page that appear in the standard component, click that and you can select the relevant Visualforce page, the name, publisher or subscriber component currently I have. So I already added, that's fine, we don't need. And to add the custom component, either ARA component or LWC component, go to the custom component section and enable accordingly. So then finally, make sure to save the app page to the changes gets reflected. Now, let me go to my subscriber component. If you have, I have all the components, all the 6 components I enabled here also. Now, let me try to publish from the utility items. Let me click the different account. If you notice, the publisher component from the utility items publish that account ID, the subscriber component receive that account information, and it's displayed accordingly. The same thing, all the component it's reflected. If I'm initiating from the LWC publisher, that gets reflected as well. In that note, we have some limitation and consideration for the Lightning Message Service. Yes, the LMS currently not supporting some of the Salesforce experience and tools, that is the Salesforce mobile app, App Exchange, and Lightning Out and Lightning Communities. In that case, we need to use the try get the recipe for the web sub component to get that recipe, and we can communicate using that approach, or otherwise we can go to use with the Lightning Message Service. And also the Lightning Message Service unsupported module for the Lightning Web Component for your local development. So this preview your changes or your component, if you are implemented in the Lightning Message Service, then from your it's not supported in the local development for the Lightning Web Component. Also, this Lightning Message Service currently we can't to create from the Salesforce user interface. We need to use to create as a meta XML file, and we need to deploy from the Visual Studio Code or any other deployment tool like Workbench or Ant. As a summary, I showed how to define the message channel and to hold the values in the published component and pass the values from the published component for the VF page, HARA component, and Lightning Web component, and communicate with each other. There is no interrelationship. There is no parent-child hierarchy. Even we can communicate from the one component to another component, including the utility bar. And also I showed some tips. If in case the component is not visible from the Lightning App Builder, make sure where we need to check in the Visualforce page. We need to check the available for Lightning experience, Lightning communities, and the mobile app from the Visualforce page, detail page. From the ARA components, we need to implement the page accordingly in Lightning Web component. Make sure the meta XML file, that is a configuration file, we need to define the exact target and also is exposed to true, then that particular component it's appear in the Lightning App Builder page. These are the resources I used for this session. I hope this video is helpful. If so, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe this SFDC Learn and Share. We'll see you in the another session or another video. Thanks again to watching this video.